Welcome to In the Moment with Kortia, where we inform, inspire, and motivate you to be a positive agent of change. And we're on Thriving Thursday. Thriving Thursday. We got past the hump, the midweek. So it's time to get out of survival mode and definitely into thriving mode if you haven't already switched gears. Family, you can call into the radio station at our local number at 318-484-2500 or toll free at 877-464-2500. And I want to give a shout out and a good morning to Central Louisiana and the surrounding areas. Natchitoches, Gina, Alexandria at 88.1 FM. Monroe, West Monroe on 98.9 FM. Shreveport and Greenwood on 92.5 FM. St. Joseph, Natchitoches, Mississippi on 99.3 FM. And Lake Charles on 100.1 FM. And you can follow us all through social media at In the Moment with Kortia. And of course, you can visit us on our website at inthemomentwithkortiakuzan.com. Hey, we've been having a spectacular week, and I love Thriving Thursdays because what? It breaks that whole mental state of, just being, like I said, in surviving mode or just barely getting by mode. And, it really goes into, what we're going to be talking about on today is that we're going to be talking about negative thoughts can kill, all right? And you might say, well, what do you mean negative thoughts can kill? I mean, just think about all the negative that may have been inside of you or someone that you may have seen and how, it pretty much diminished their whole look or their outlook as far as like about themselves, about an individual, about doing something, about starting something, whatever it may be. But you know how negative thoughts can actually be that chain that just keeps you locked in place. Those bonds that just won't ever let you go forward. But how those negative thoughts could just really just kill your overall motivation to just do anything in life. So, that's what we're going to be touching on this Thriving Thursday. And so I got a question out there for you that's listening right now. For those of you that are choosing to call in, what's a negative thought that's been holding you captive? Okay, it's not it needs to be anything complicated, but what is a negative thought that's been holding you captive? And something may come up to you as you hear the points that I'm actually going to be touching on. But one of the biggest negative thoughts, and I got this as far as the first thing to mention to you is that something that even to this day that I actually grapple with, that I deal with, that comes on me every so often, just because and how being a child of God, we want to do everything to excellence, to glorify God. And within our mindsets, we think that for some reason that if it's not quote unquote perfect, then it's going to be substandard. It's not going to be good enough. Okay, so I had to actually, and God really actually had to get me to this point of saying, okay, I fell into this trap. And, this trap continually tries to grab me every so often of in a negative aspect to where you have this mindset, it's all or nothing thinking, okay? It's all or nothing, meaning that, if I really don't do this, it's that I'm going to be a complete failure, all right? Now, we know that if you're being real, okay, you can have this mindset, it's all or nothing, and then, you're saying to yourself, I got to get this done. I've got to get this done. If I don't do this, I'm going to be a complete failure. But if you're anything like me, those things that you keep saying, I've got to get this done, I've got to get this done, or I'm going to be a failure, it seems like that's always the thing that gets pushed all the way to the end. It seems like it's always that last thing that needs to get done, that thing that you, quote unquote, I've got to get it done. Because we kind of, in saying that, when you think about it, we verbally say, okay, it has great importance of something that needs to be done as far as in our life or something that we may have said we're going to do for someone else, but it gets kind of pushed to the background because, we put undue pressure on ourselves. And a lot of us, that undue pressure that we put on ourselves, well, let's just be frank, we really don't want to deal with it because the things that really put undue pressure on us, we tend to try to shy away from those things, those things that really give us the anxiety, those things that cause us to be frustrated. And a lot of times that, for an example, let's just use this for an example. Say when you were in school, okay, and you get into this mindset, I've got to get this done, I have got to study for this test. Instead of you actually saying, okay, I'm going to schedule X amount of time to go ahead and study for this test, do what you can do, study what you can study, get the mindset that you need to have, and studying the material, and that's it. But when you go forth and you actually just put this, I got to get it done, I got to get it done, I got to get it done, you get into this hurried mode. You get into like a pressure mode. You start looking at the clock. You start like, oh man, you start getting, like I said, stress starts to build up. And it's one of those things that you basically, you're like, oh man, you feel just like this weight just being thrown on top of you. But, we really need to get out of that mindset about thinking that if we don't get something done or don't get something done in a specific time frame, that we're a failure. Now, I know we have different deadlines that we may have on our job, okay? But, though that's different than if you're like, than it being personal. But, even on your job, all right, when it's like that all or nothing thinking, all right, if we actually situate and are diligent and we're smart with our time, then we can get these things done, okay? It's basically like I tell my kids, or, when I was in the corporate world, you actually have to have a plan when you're going in, okay? A lot of people that have been in the corporate world that I've actually worked with, they have been like reactive managers. I mean, as something came up and it happened, that's when they responded to it. I mean, had no kind of game plan coming in, something happened, it would be like, I can't understand why this happened. I can't understand why the people are acting this way, blah, 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 blah. But then, my supervisor would always say, well, Court, look, it just seems like, no matter what gets thrown or whatever at you, it just seems like you've got a solution. Well, my thing is that I keep saying this. Anything that you do in life, it's got to be, and some of you may have never played this game before, but it's like chess, okay? And chess isn't like checkers. Checkers is like you're going from move to move to move. But in chess, you have to be, systematic. You've got to have a plan. Literally, you have to think about how you're trying to get that king on the other side, okay? And the thing is that you can't do it from move to move. You've got to actually think how you're going to be positioning your pieces, 5 moves ahead. So literally, you've got to have a plan laid out to draw your opponent out so that you can actually get to the king and capture it. Well, it's the same things in life. With this all or nothing thinking, you're not going to be able to accomplish everything you want to do like right there and right there. There's got to be a plan. There's got to be some type of plan laid out so that negative thought doesn't grab you and get you paralyzed that you really never get started, or you're so rushed to where you do substandard work, or you don't actually do what's necessary to accomplish what you need for you personally. So, one of the strategies that people actually do is they always think about things in like the worst case scenario with this, okay? Like, okay, if I don't do this like this right now, I'm going to fail the exam. Or if I don't do this a certain way at the job, I'm going to lose my job. People that fall into this all or nothing thinking, it's always this worst case scenario that keeps coming up. And that, like I said, you wouldn't believe if you actually saw the statistics on how people, when they put this undue pressure on them, and how stress literally is the number one killer of people, not only in this country, but around the world. And a lot of the stress that we have now, it comes from negative thoughts. It's just that it seems to be human nature now to go to the worst case scenario mindset in all things, okay? I've had the opportunity to minister to, a lot of men as far as like in their marriages. And I mean, they could get into like some type of an argument with their wives, and then they immediately, go to the worst case scenario. I don't know why she's acting like this. Maybe she's messing around with somebody. Maybe she thinks I'm messing around with somebody. And I'm like, well, what do you get all of that from? Well, we had an argument. Okay, well, what in the argument actually brought any of this up? Well, I just figured just because. So, see where I'm going? People tend to just go, like I said, to the worst case scenario to bring up the negativity, like it's got to be all or nothing, okay? We don't actually go and find out why we get to this state of, if I don't do this, I'll be a complete failure, okay? It's the same thing like some people when they're in life and when they're going through their families. Like I said before, and some of you have heard this yourself, when people tell you in your family, possibly if this happened to you, that you're never going to amount to anything, that you're worthless or what have you, some people can actually carry that over from an early stage of their life, bring it over into their adulthood, and it's like they're in competition with this past self, or these words that were spoken into their life in the past. They're in constant competition to try to prove people wrong. But to have so much pressure from a past situation, and you stuck into this, like, all or nothing thinking. If I don't do this, if I don't complete this, if I don't achieve more than what they said I could be, then I'm a failure. Well, look, don't allow what people have said, don't allow what you even say about yourself to limit you in what God says about you, okay? And how God continually says you're an overcomer, you're wondrously made. I mean, and how he just has laid out everything for you and how the things that he's gifted to you. But look, you have to realize that you've got to get yourself, and I did say it, yourself out of this bondage of this all or nothing thinking. Look, it's not one way or the highway. It's not about, there's only one way to do things. It's not about, you actually just taking on and trying to, falsely encourage yourself because of what other people are doing. What it's truly about is seeing that, that everything that we do, even in this process of thought, it's a step-by-step process. And, to do this, we have to be real with ourselves and know that a lot of the things that we have on our lives, the undue pressures that we have on our lives, are due to negative thoughts. And you know something, and realizing that, God's just going to let you know that right now, your moment may not be as bad as you think it is. But when you get rid of these things, guess what? God's going to truly show you how he's going to catapult you to the next level in him. Welcome back to In the Moment with Kortia Kuzan on this Thriving Thursday. Hey, why don't you call in with your questions or your comments there to let me know exactly what type of negative thoughts been keeping you bound? I mean, what is it that's just sticking in your mind on a daily basis as far as like negative thoughts are concerned? I mean, what is it that the enemy just really keeps trying to throw in your mindset to try to hold you back? Okay, talking about negative thoughts can kill on this Thriving Thursday, because family, it's time for us to get out of that survival mode, that barely getting by mode, that it's always going to be hard times. But we really need to, like I said, get that mindset to overcome the things that we think that are right in front of us, because a lot of things that are in front of us that we perceive that are in front of us, hey, let's just be real, it's made up. Okay, it's things that we've actually created in our mindsets. Now, in saying that, the next thing I want to go into is actually, a lot of us tend to actually disqualify the positive things in our lives, okay? And what do I mean by that? We get up, and for whatever reason, no matter how good something might be going in our life, we have this mindset or this framework, and we may even say it, that life is always bad, okay? Have you ever heard anyone get up, and I mean, family could be happy, health is good job going on, good fellowship of friends, serving the Lord, all of these things that are going on, and then they have this total mindset and they project life is always bad. I mean, this is like one of the biggest negative type of emotions and thinking that you can actually possibly have. Really and truly, an individual just simply refuses to acknowledge, okay, that anything is going on good. Now, this is really going to shock you here. This is something that even happens with people that you would actually, quote unquote, call privileged, okay, that seem like they've got it all together, got the money, living in a big house, have all the connections. It's interesting that some people that have more to be thankful for than others, or some of the individuals that have some of the greatest levels of negative thinking or a scarcity mindset. Now, what do I mean by that? I've been in the presence of a lot of individuals, upon my years upon this earth, and I mean to the level of where they could actually go, say like if they wanted to purchase a vehicle, they could go to a car dealership, pick out anything they wanted, and pay cash for it, okay? But the thing is that if they were to do something like that, as soon as they purchase the vehicle, they start having regrets about the purchase. Oh, why did I do that? They may have millions of dollars in the bank, but say, okay, well, why did I do that? But then they would start rationalizing and how this was a bad thing that they did, okay? And then, of course, they would get into this scarcity mindset of, oh, man, I just spent this money. I mean, that's going to play later to where, it's taken away from my money. It's like a lot of individuals now that seem to get more, not everyone, but a lot of individuals that seem to get more is that they try to hold on to it more, as if, it's better for me to try to hold on to it, to try to almost like hoard it up, and, it goes along basically with the story in the Bible, just like the the rich man that had so much that his barn was overflowing, and instead of being a blessing to someone and actually being able to help individuals, he said, well, I'm just going to tear this barn down and build greater barns to store up even more of what I had. And then, of course, the way the story actually ended is that, an angel of the Lord actually came and spoke to him and said, on this night your life is going to be accounted for you. And how can I say, what's the importance of your riches and everything that you've actually accumulated? How is it going to play in your life right now? And a lot of us right now, like I said, in thinking that life is always going to be bad, we are not even able to enjoy the good things that we have in our life. I mean, really, why is it that we can have so many good things that are happening? I mean, you can get, like I said, the promotion and everything at work, and just because you're joyous about it, but then someone comes up to you, now you've got all these pressures of, responsibilities are happening to this. You've got to meet deadlines. You've got these people under you now that you've got to keep track of. It's amazing how so many people want to actually point out the things that what they perceive that's going to be so bad in your life to make life always seem like it's bad to you. But a lot of individuals that do that, as I've said before, try to project how they would be in your position, how they would be in your shoes, because so many of us right now, we've actually been raised in so many areas of our life, so many of us, to actually have a negative mindset, to always expect the worst before we can actually seem to have that little glimmer of light to accept anything positive in our lives. And we need to change that. I mean, look, this is Thriving Thursday, okay? Not just thriving on Thursday, but we need to have the mindset to be thriving every single day of our life, okay? We have really got to get rid of this negative thought process, because in doing that, it's almost like, think about this. If you know how in science, a negative and a positive will attract each other, okay? Well, what happens if you have a negative always going out for you, but the thing that wants to come to you is a negative, okay? When you're supposed to be the positive, so it can be drawn to you. Whether it's an opportunity, whether it's you finally finding that, God leading that spouse to you that you've always wanted. If you always have negative, then people are going to be repelled from you. Opportunity is going to be repelled from you. Your outlook that you have in life, as far as like things of being always going to be bad, is going to push everything that God has in store for you away from you. And we truly don't even realize that. And then, the next thing is that we need to stop all of this negative self-labeling. Now, what are you talking about, Court, about self-labeling, okay? Stop saying that I'm a complete failure, all right, and that things will never happen in my life. Look, there is not one person right now I would actually honestly say, and if I'm wrong, hey, you call in and let me know. But there's not one person that's probably under the sound of my voice. I can even say this. I know my wife can say this. I know my daughter can say this. Everyone is going through some negative self-labeling at least once in their life, okay? And what do I mean by negative self-labeling? I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm too fat or whatever. I don't know enough, whatever it may be. Someone is going under some negative self-labeling. You may be in a position right now to where you're doing this, okay? And you're using that to validate why you are missing out on everything, okay? And like I said, a lot of self-labeling comes from, more oftentimes than not, through the way we were actually raised, through what people have said to us, outside influences. And because of us just saying, no, that's not me, we've literally just taken that with arms wide open with this big basket in our hands to receive all of that negativity. And we've looked at ourselves and say, okay, where am I going to fit this in? Because if people are actually saying these things about me, then guess what? It must be true. Why do you think that bullying is so big nowadays as far as like with children that are out there, even with some adults? Because a lot of people take the negativity that's others say because they may see them as some type of in an authoritative position, or may see them as being smarter, or may see them as being, more handsome, more beautiful, whatever it is, more knowledgeable, whatever it is. And they see that based upon that so-called outward exterior appearance that they have, and they take it on as far as like, well, they're in a level or a position higher than me. So look, if they're saying this about me, then this must be true. And we take this and we allow it to mold and shape us. And so we continue to negative self-label ourselves, all right? Look, you're not a failure. You are not a failure, okay? You're not less than adequate, okay? You can stop allowing yourself to just fall into the realm of being mistreated, whether in a physical sense, whether in an emotional sense, whether in a spiritual sense, whether in a financial sense, okay? You don't have to accept this label that people give you, and you don't have to accept the labels that you put on yourself. Look, if you can stop saying that I'm a total loser. You can stop saying that I'm a bad person. I'm fat. I'm a failure. I'm a fool. I'm an idiot. You can stop saying all of these things. Why not flip the script on that? Why not turn things around and go and start saying great things of affirmation about you? I'm beautiful. I'm successful. I have a great destiny ahead of me. I'm that positive agent of change. Be and think about who God is calling you to be and break that cycle. Stay in this moment that God has you in and truly, truly walk into the fullness of your moment. Welcome back to In the Moment with Kortia Kuzan. Family listening and waiting for you to call in with your comments or questions. And hey, look, what's that negative thought, like I said, that's actually been, kind of holding you back? What's the negative thought that just seems like it just will not leave your mindset? I mean, because like I said, we go through like some challenges and ups and downs each and every day, but it seems like there's always this one thing that's always trying, this little thing that tries to make you have some type of doubt within yourself. So what is that negative thought that you're dealing with? Call into the radio station, local 318-484-2500 or toll free at 877-464-2500. Look, and a lot of people out there, wow. I mean, if you see things as far as like on the news, I know like when we go to the gym, okay, got to keep that body in shape. And you're up there and say like you're on the cardio equipment and you're looking at those TVs. And I mean, I'm like, man, it's like bad news, catastrophes, all these people this, all these different things that are going on. So, that's why I kind of make sure I have like positive things of affirmation and good things that are going on as far as like my cell phone that I can actually focus on. But, in saying that, a lot of people are actually in a negative thoughts area where, how your negative thoughts can like just kill many aspects about you. People in their mindset, a lot of them about, they have a catastrophe thought process or catastrophe thinking. I mean, basically, they don't just think that something's going to be bad, it's going to be the worst thing of all time, okay? Have you ever actually been someone or in that particular situation to where, okay, something happened with an individual and I've heard, wow, something, and this is probably one of the main areas I've actually heard this. Okay, say like you've gone to like a hospital and you've got a family member that you're going to go ahead and visit, all right? And this one particular family member, there's always that one. There's always that one particular family member. And, of course, someone gets a diagnosis of something. Maybe someone have seen a spot or whatever on the liver or a spot on the kidney or whatever. And then all of a sudden they go up in there and, this one family member starts to go out with the worst case scenario, the catastrophic syndrome or sequence that's going to happen. And before they go ahead up in there, if they're in there with that one person that just had that one spot or whatever on the liver, they make them think that they've got full-blown stage 4 cancer or something before the conversation's going on. Because why? They don't see anything positive or whatever that can happen. They don't see how they can actually overcome these things. They've always got to paint the worst picture possible. And a lot of us, for whatever reason, we paint the worst picture possible, the worst scenario possible when it comes to our lives. Like I said, a lot of these things that I'm sharing with you, like I said, first partaker of these things. And I've shared before, grew up in a 3-bedroom house with 10 other people, all right? And just because of how, in a lot of areas that I was raised and the things that I saw, and, just because of certain areas where we did have lack in it, I was just like, wow, this is pretty much going to happen. And I started comparing it with lives of people that I saw, like with other kids, like when I was in school or, different jobs that I saw people that they had. It was just like, wow, okay, worst case scenario. We must be in that worst case scenario. And, people in my family, when I tried to talk about things that, hey, I wanted to do this or positive this, it came with the, you need to get real, look at where we are, look at where we stay, look at what's going on with our family. But then they always want to have that catastrophic mindset, the catastrophic thinking of, and then, of course, why do you think it's going to be different with you? Does that sound familiar to someone? Is that catching someone right now in their moment? That thought that's in you right now, that thing that the enemy is trying to bring up in you right now, why do you feel it's going to change with you? Why do you feel that you're going to be that positive agent of change? You're listening to him. Well, you may be hearing him right now. You may be hearing Court on the radio, but obviously he's not talking to you. He's got to be talking to someone else. And that may be going through your mind right now. The devil might be trying to talk to some of you right now to try to discourage you. Because why? What happens? He comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And he wants to just kill that hope, that desire, that dream that's on the inside of you, okay? He wants to just steal, the motivation that you've been having, to go ahead and take that leap of faith and do what God has actually called you to do. I mean, anytime that you start to get these thoughts, there's a reason, okay? It's not because you're dwelling totally on these negative thoughts and that's all that you are. The enemy has to try to do everything that he can to stop you from going forward. Why? Because if you stop and you don't go forward, then what ends up happening? He doesn't have to worry about you actually infiltrating or taking the so-called dominion or the territory that he has, because why? You will actually start to flourish in what God has called you to, because when you start taking a step towards what God has called you to do, God starts to revelate and give you more of the picture, more of the plan. He starts to, show you how to get equipped more. He starts to bring people into your life. He starts to bring resources into your life. He starts to open up finances into your life. All of these different things start to happen in your life that you didn't think. But what? You've got to get out of this catastrophic mindset of thinking that it's going to be bad and then it's also going to eventually get worse. Okay? Don't allow yourself to be bound up in that way. All right? And look, no matter what you see or no matter what you may see on television, there's no one out there that's a mind reader, okay? No one can read another person's mind. But some of us fall into that trap about we're a mind reader. And what do I mean by being a mind reader? It's like we think that just because we see someone, possibly how they may be acting, where they come from, that we can actually read the type of person who they are, okay? And, in doing that, most people actually project what's in their mindsets on other people. So what do I mean by this? Is that 99% of the time, we're actually projecting our own thoughts to someone else. So basically, we literally, if we think negatively about someone or think that they are going to speak to us negatively, we're going to actually respond to that person before they have a word that comes out of their mouth, because we've already made up in our minds that's how the conversation is going to go. So it's like a lot of times when people go for job interviews, okay? And, like I said, this happened with me. You're sitting down with all these other applicants in the room, and you're looking and they've got on the big power tie, the shoes are shining, suitcase and everything else. And, you've got your suit or your jacket that you probably have to clean almost every other week because you're using it so much. And, you may not have the finest quality. You may have had to have patched up your pants, whatever it is. And you're looking at them, and then all of a sudden, the interviewer comes out and he's calling these people, and you see this person is dressed as good as they are, and you start to project these things in your mind about, oh my Lord, he's going to look at me like this, they're going to look at me like that, they're not going to take me seriously. All of these negative thoughts start to come to you, and then by the time you get into the interview, you literally have already laid the landscape of how the interview is going to go before a word even comes out of the guy's mouth. And that stops so many of us from really going into the fullness of what, God has in store for us. And then we just try to play it close. I mean, we're up in there. We get so insecure. We don't make any kind of eye contact. Okay, that's pet peeve number one, to not get hired. All right. We don't ask any kind of questions. That's part two. We start stumbling over our words. That's point three, in job interviews. And then all of a sudden he's just like, well, why do you actually want to work for this company? Okay, that's one of the biggest things that hang up people. Well, because I think it's it'll be a really good job. Okay, well, why do you think it's going to be a really good job? They're wanting to see exactly the scope of your level of thinking, but because of you already pretty much having this entire conversation in your mind and thinking how it's already going to happen, and you've literally fired yourself before the interviews come, well, guess what? You're going to get exactly what you expect. And so many of us, in our negative mindsets of how we project what we think, how it's going to work with an individual, with a group, with an organization, or even with ourselves, we're going to get exactly what we are projecting, okay? And then those should statements, okay? Those shoulda, coulda, woulda statements. I should do this and they should do that. How many of us think, I struggle with this myself. Just because I think that, I can do something a certain way, I tend to think someone else should do something a certain way. We all go through this, okay? And it causes us to get frustration with people, and you may be able to pick up something really well. Like one of my great skill sets, no matter what your business is, if I listen to you enough and you're having a problem in that particular business, and you explain some of the details, what you're going with, God will revelate to me to give you a solution on the spot. I don't even have to know your background, but if you talk about it enough, a solution will pop up. Now, if for whatever reason I'm able to do something in a certain way, naturally I think because I can do it well, somebody else should be able to do it. Or if I pick something up in a certain amount of time, somebody else should be able to pick it up in a certain amount of time. But you cannot do that because those shoulda, coulda, woulda mindsets that you have, and that's a negative thought. If you allow it to be negative, it'll actually cause you to actually, have disdain for people, not treat people the right way, and actually, look over things that may be beneficial to you. So you've got to get out of that shoulda, woulda, coulda mindset, okay? And, point blank, just cut it out. Just cut it out, because if you do that, you're going to shoulda, coulda, woulda yourself always right out of your moment, okay? God wants you to be in the moment with him so that he can propel you into the things that he has in store for you. But, if you go to God with a shoulda, coulda, woulda mindset, God's going to be like, look, there's only one way, and it's going to be this way. So look, focus on the things that he's placing in you. Focus on how he's trying to uplift you, and focus on just how he's right there continually with you in this moment. Welcome back to In the Moment with Kortia Kuzan on this Thriving Thursday, and we're talking today about negative thoughts can kill, and we've been covering many different points in the area of how negative thoughts can impact you wholeheartedly in every aspect of your life. And we ended before the break on those shoulda, coulda, woulda statements, and how we project a lot of times of, the negativity, or we can make it into a negative situation, or how we feel that just because we can do something, someone else should be able to do it also. And, in this last portion of the show, I'm really going to want to bring it home, okay? Really want to bring it home to you. And, another one of the main things that actually sticks out to me. And, if this is something that you're doing right now, not only is this something that's really going to be self-destructive as far as professionally, but wow, it's really going to play as far as personally as well. And that's, and having an excessive need for approval. Okay. And what do I mean by that? Is that no matter what you do, okay, it seems like you have got to get the approval of an individual. You've got to get some kind of praise, those things that, I need. Basically, you're saying to people, I need you to need me. Okay, I know that doesn't sound really great or to the point, but it's really what it needs. It's really what needs to be said. I need you to need me. I mean, literally, you have to have some kind of affirmation from someone. You've got to hear it every single day, and there's nothing wrong with this. But I mean, an excessive thing, you do things to get people to say I love you. You do things to get people to say you have a good job. I mean, you can go ahead and pick up a piece of trash, but then think about this. You can do things, and you kind of start intentionally doing things in a way to where people are actually, you do them back up. You do them and make sure you're doing them when people are looking. Okay, does that make sense? So that you can get that so-called good job. It's almost as if it's an addiction. That's the best way I can go ahead and describe it. It's so much so that I've seen individuals that do this. It's almost like an addiction that they cannot go through their day without having some type of approval from someone. And the thing that's really bad about this is that if you've ever seen people that are in abusive relationships, and a lot of us will see people that may be in abusive relationships, and we're like, wow, I cannot understand why they stay in that particular relationship. Well, because of the negative thought and the negative process that they have inside of them, and because of how they've basically been molded, that aspect of needing that approval, to where even if they get that so-called positive affirmation once a week, once a month, it's going to be enough for them to allow them to stay in a situation or whatever that they're in. And I know that's an oversimplification, but I mean, that's really the gist of it, the underlying thing. And so many of us right now, we don't realize that we're actually self-abusing. Oh, I'm catching somebody in their moment right now. Some of us right now are actually self-abusing ourselves and needing to have this feel good, positive, word from an individual. It's because literally you are abusing yourself in an emotional sense, oh my Lord, big time emotionally, and mentally thinking that you're not just going to be able to make it through your day without having, said person to say something good about you. And then it's really going to stop you from realizing your potential, because you're going to base who you are on what others are saying or the positive feedback that they give, okay? And why are we actually limiting ourselves on the opinions of others? Now, I know there are people out there that God has placed in our lives to be mentors. I know there are things that people do to help us, but what we really need to do this is that, okay, if it's already been said in God's word, and a lot of people say, well, I know God's will for my life. Yes, you do. You know God's will. If you've actually read your Bible and gone through your Bible and studied your Bible, okay, you know what God's will is for your life. You know what you should be doing. There are no excuses out there for people to not realize how valued they are, okay? We can choose to stay in this realm of ignorance, okay, because I'm just going to put this out there. You can disagree, okay, if you want. Ignorance in any form, shape, or fashion, no matter what level it is, it's a choice. It is a choice, okay? You can't say I was born this way. You can't say, it's the mindset that we have in the family. It's a choice to be that way. How can I say that? Because it used to be with my family, and it was a choice for me to do better and do more than what was going on in my family. And you know what? The only person that needs to approve of you is who? You. You've got to be your biggest pusher. You've got to be your biggest cheerleader. You have got to be the one that no matter how tough it gets, you've got to be that one person that's going to say it's going to be all right. Because sometimes even when you're married, your spouse may not be up there where you are. Sometimes, people on your job. Sometimes when you're at church, people may not motivate you or give you that word that you need. And, sometimes, just like David said in the Bible, sometimes you just have to encourage yourself, okay? So be that person that actually you be the person that pushes you the most, okay? Be that one that gives you the thoughts or that positive affirmation that you need, okay? So, stop disqualifying. Should I say stop disqualifying the president, all right? And then stop putting this mindset, everything's going to be all right later, okay? It just seems because I was like this and I shared this that, this delayed gratification mindset, it's the same thing. I was always putting off doing things with my family about, hey, they were like, hey, why don't we go ahead to the beach, when we stay close to the beach? Oh, well, let's go ahead and do this later because we want to go ahead and save this money and for this. Or, hey, let's just go for a ride. Hey, let's go ahead and let's just watch a movie right now inside of the house because, we want to save that gas. You see where I'm going? It's always not enjoying the present moment that you have, but everything will always be all right later. Things will always have to be done later. Now, This is definitely a killer that'll stop your dreams. It's definitely something that's going to just totally just knock you off the pathway of what God has. And this is one of the biggest mindsets of so many people right now in the body of Christ. Everything will be all right later. Everything will be all right later. But I know in my Bible, what I've read and how it says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It didn't say anything about later faith. Okay, it said now faith. And I usually don't do this, but I want to point out two songs or whatever for you. How this is Thriving Thursday. There's this Christian group called Casting Crowns, and they made this song called Thrive. I would invite you to actually listen to it. And there's another individual in his group called Israel Holton New Breed, and he made this song called It's a New Season. I would invite you, if you never heard those, to listen to both of those and play them over and over and over and over again on the course of this day. And I guarantee you that if you've been having some negative thoughts or negative mindset, those things are going to get changed. And God's going to start revealing to you things in your moment right now of how he just wants to show you how qualified you are to be that positive agent of change, no matter where you may be. No matter where you may be. Guess what? Because the great seed of greatness, that blessing on the inside of you, it's not determined of how great you're going to be based upon, your location, where you were brought up, the color of your skin, the size of your body, your gender, okay? That seed of greatness is going to be determined by how you allow God to show you how to cultivate that and go to the fullness of the plan and purpose that he has for your life, okay? And then dwelling, I have to think about everything that's wrong in my life. Don't dwell on the things of thinking about, okay, let me get up today and let me dwell on everything that may not be going right in my life. And so many of us go through that when you're on your drive. And, you know, a lot of folks do this. I'm driving to work, and let me think about all that's going bad in my life. Let me think about all that may happen at the job on life. Let me think of everything that's going to happen after I get off the job, dwelling on every single thing that's negative. You know, why don't you just dwell on, hey, I've got a vehicle I can drive to work on. Hey, look, I'm breathing right now. Hey, look, I've got some lunch to eat, okay? I know it seems small, but look, you've got to realize that there are great things that are happening in your life, but you have to actually be intentional in identifying those things, okay? And pessimism, wow. Who out there is constantly saying the glass is always half empty instead of it being half full? That's one of the biggest things that happen no matter whether you're a Christian or non-Christian. It's just people in general. Most individuals in this world today have the mindset of the glass is always half empty. And they will pull out a list of every negative thing that you can think of to actually qualify why they will say the glass is half empty. Instead of seeing the glass half full and say, wow, I'm almost there. And then, you know, instead of saying I'm almost there, they're like, man, I have so much further to go. You see what I'm saying? It's a mental thing that needs to happen. It's actually seeing you. You know, you're going to hear me say this so much. You have to see yourself as God sees you. You have to see yourself in the moment. And you have to see yourself continually as he sees you through this journey. You have to see yourself through this journey. And you have to see exactly how God is going to carry you through your moment, and you have to stay engaged with God. And we'll get back in this as I continue to engage with you tomorrow on Fire It Up Friday. Take care and God bless.